We were working on a Toyota Corolla with a 1.8 liter inline 4-cylinder engine. Today we're going to be doing the valve cover gasket on this thing. Picked up the parts from rockauto.com. Need to take this cover off. Typically there's two 10 millimeter there's a 2 10 millimeter bolts right here. Right here there's typically almost like a push pin. Looks like a golf ball on top of a push pin. You actually pop those out. They're not there for some reason. Pull this straight up and out and get that out of the way. Get this thing out. There's bolts all along here, but first we need to get the coil packs out. Take off the connectors for the coil packs. Most of these bolts are 10 millimeter. All 4 of these are 10 millimeter. These down here 10 millimeter. You do not need to pull the spark plugs out to do this. You're actually going to go ahead, you're going to need to take off the PCV valve hose. Take this hose off. So first thing I'll do is take the coil pack connectors off. Take these 4 10 millimeter bolts out for the coil packs. Next thing we're going to do, there's a plastic harness or plastic rail that actually carries the harness, the wiring loom for the connectors for the coil packs. There's one 10 millimeter bolt here and then a nut over there, so you got to pull those out as well. And we'll get the plastic wiring loom out of the way, plastic wiring harness out of the way. Okay, this bolt's out. Let you get the harness out of the way, and then you can grab the coil packs and get them out. There's a plastic or rubber grommet right here. Make sure you don't lose that. Sometimes they stick onto the valve cover. Just pull them all out at once. If you have oil down in one of the spark plug holes, that typically means that the spark plug tube seal gasket is shot. This procedure will actually fix that and take care of that. If you pull the coil packs out and you see oil down into the spark plug well, go ahead and pull that spark plug out. Let the oil drain into the cylinder. I know it's not the best thing. You can actually siphon it out if there's that much oil. And if there is a lot of oil, if it's full of oil, like all the way to the top, yes, go ahead and siphon it out. If it's just a little bit of oil, go ahead and let it go down in the cylinder and it'll burn off as soon as you fire it up. You actually have 2 10 millimeter bolts here on top. So go ahead and loosen up those now. Now we're actually getting to loosening up the valve cover. Then you have here, over here, bolts, and then on this side I believe you have some, and on the back side you have some as well. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to actually take these hoses off. Get some pliers on this hose right here. Squeeze the clamp together. Bring it up out of the way. Got that one out. Move that out of the way. Next we'll do the hose for the PCV valve, which is right here. Squeeze this together. Move the clip out of the way. And as I did that, it actually came off all as one piece. So get those out of the way. You have a bolt here. You have one here. So we'll just go around. Take these out now. The new kit comes with these 2 seals for the top 2 valve cover bolts. So we'll replace those as well. We might have to cut these off, but we'll see how to fix those in a second. And that appears to be a 12 millimeter. This one right here. There's one right here on the side. These have all been 10 millimeter except for this one right here. And it looks like there's one back here on the back side, one here in the middle, 2. There's 4. Looks like there's 4 back here. So get this 12 millimeter out. I'm just going to use a crescent wrench. Okay, starting on these 4 back here. Okay, they're all loose, except for this very last one over here. These 3 are loose. Right back here, passenger side corner towards the firewall, you have this wiring harness. There's actually one of the bolts back here. To get this thing off, I just pulled this thing out. There might be a clip there sometimes, but I was just able to pull it out like that. And the last bolt is right there. So 10 millimeter again. Go ahead, I'll pull that one out. Sorry, it's hard to see, but there might be a clip that you need to push or squeeze down to get it off this tab so you can get access to this bolt. Come here with the 10 millimeter. Broke it loose, pull this off by hand. Okay. So this clip is actually what fell down. This part right here was holding that wiring harness on. So the last bolt that I pulled off was actually going right through this hole. So that's why it fell when I pulled that bolt out. So make sure you put this back on. All right, now get a screwdriver and I'll put it right here and see if I can pry this thing up. If it doesn't come off easily, stop, because there's another bolt that's left. So instead of using a screwdriver, I have a scraper right here. I'm gonna go in, see if I can pop this thing up. Looks like it's up. Go ahead and get this out of the way. Just gonna pull this thing straight up. Okay. There is the valve cover gasket. Well, there's the valve cover and the valve cover gasket. The valve cover gasket looked like it stayed behind a little bit, but there it is. This thing is rock hard. Okay, see right here? See this part right here? This should be one assembly. There's a gasket that goes into each, round gasket that goes into each spark plug tube seal. Spark plug tube, which creates a seal at the bottom. So, as you can see, it actually stayed behind. So go ahead and grab this. Try not to leave any parts behind. Work it out slowly. Make sure you do it methodically, carefully. This thing is old and brittle. These cams look really good. The owner is taking very good care of this car. There's no sludge or any major discoloration. Chain seems to be okay. Okay, next will be to go ahead, clean up the mating surface right here. Be very careful when you're working here. This is aluminum. It's very sharp, so if you run your finger along this edge or any of these aluminum edges, you run the risk of cutting yourself. So just be very careful when you're working there. Right here, there's some remnants of some RTV. You can see right there. So we actually want to seal this up. We're actually going to put new RTV on right at this crack where the timing chain cover meets the head. We'll use some brake clean and a rag, clean this up. That'll also be on the other side as well. So right here on the other side, some old RTV I'm just peeling off with my hand, right where the timing chain cover and the head meets. Looks like there's no real major residue on here. So you want to clean all this mating surface and around the tube seal as well. So I'm just cleaning this this mating surface up. It's not bad. There's no real old gasket left. Just some oil and debris and muck and junk. I'm going to bring in some brake clean. Next thing to do will be to go ahead and pull the valve cover, old valve cover gasket off the valve cover. Get all these nasty old parts out of here. Get that out as one assembly. Try to get this valve cover gasket out in one piece, or as much as one piece as you can. As you can see, it's so brittle it broke apart on me, but if you can, get it out in one piece. Let me show you the new gasket before I take this away. Here are the two seals for the two bolts on the top of the valve cover. Here's the new gasket. Man, nice and flexible like a rubber band. Nice, smooth and silky. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, now I'll go around and clean this up a little bit as much as possible. So clean up the valve cover as well as you can. Use some brake clean. Go around, go ahead, clean up all the dirt and debris and oil residue you can on the top here. Now we're going to bring in the new valve cover gasket. It's pretty much self-explanatory. There's only one way that this will go in. So just work it in here onto the top. should stay in place when we flip this thing over. Make sure it's seating correctly on the spark plug tubes. Just double check your work. Okay, that's correct. Now we're going to go ahead and take some RTV, seal up the mating surface right here between the timing belt cover on this side and then on the back side as well. Just a little bit of RTV right there. Just a little dime size tab is all you need. That's it. And on the back side as well. That's all you need. That's it. RTV in place. We're going to bring in the top of the valve cover. Get your wiring harness out of the way. Okay. Looks like everything's in place. Go ahead, visually check down there. Make sure you can't see any of the blue valve cover gasket down in the spark plug wells. To get everything back into place is just a reversal of how you took it off. RTV is right here. You can see the very corner of it. It's coming out a little bit. The longer you can wait on this stuff, the better. I would say wait 2 hours before driving this thing just so that the RTV has enough time to dry. So go ahead, start your bolts by hand first, just so you can get them all in place before you lock them down. There's a torque spec for this. It's 7 foot-pounds. Okay, here's this one over here. Remember, it takes this special bracket before you put it in. Actually put the bolt in first, then lead it down into place. By starting the valve cover bolts by hand, you actually give it a chance for all the bolts to get into place, because if you tighten one side up, you might not be able to get the other one, let's say on the opposing side, in place, because this one's tight and the valve cover won't move at all, won't give you any room to move. So that's why you leave everything loose, and now we have them all back in place. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to lock these down. So just snug these up, and then I'll go back around, tighten them. Okay, they're all tight. Now I'm going to go around and just snug them up. All of them are tight, snug down. Double check this one right here. That one's snug. Now we have these 2 remaining ones on top, and there's actually new seals that came in the kit. In the Felpro kit. Here's the here's a bolt basically, but here's the old rubber gasket. This thing just comes off. If it's really stiff and hard, you might have to cut this thing off, but here's a new pliable one. So first order of business is to get this thing off screen. I'm just trying to get this thing off, but I might have to cut it with a razor blade or something. But I'm actually just unscrewing it. We're getting the new pliable ones. It's tapered, so I'm going to put this this side up towards the top. Just goes into place like that. Okay, now we're going to bring in the coil packs, button all this up, put the connectors back on, double check the connectors. If you guys want to see how to do the spark plugs, I'll put a link in the description below to the spark plug video I did on this vehicle. Next thing we'll do is put the hoses back into place. If it's really hard to get on, you can always use some WD-40 or some axle grease on the inside to push them into place. All right, next thing to do will be fire up the car, make sure it runs correctly. You might get a little bit of rough idle at the very beginning because of the brake clean that we used on the inside. If you experience that, don't be alarmed. All right, everything's buttoned up. All the coil packs are in place, the screws are down. Double check the connectors here. We're actually gonna fire it up. Bring this back into place. All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, that's how you do the valve cover gasket on a Toyota Corolla with a 1.8 liter. Go ahead and fire it up. Check for any misfires. Look on the inside of the instrument cluster for a misfire or check engine light. There isn't any, so we're good to go. It's not hard at all to do this job. Just be careful not to lose any of the bolts. If you have found any of my videos helpful, please consider subscribing to Bundys Garage on YouTube. Questions, comments, concerns, you can always reach out to me at BundysGarage@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching. To everybody that's subscribed so far, thank you. You guys make this channel possible.